Hey everyone! Today, I wanted to take a look at Deltarune, and specifically some of the theories and ideas being tossed around. Now, I can't claim to bring anything new to the table. Honestly, I've stayed away from anything connected to theories on my channel because I feel like there's no new ground to cover. There are, however, some ideas I think I can challenge. A lot of people accept theories as fact when there isn't as much evidence backing them as they might think. I want to take a closer look at some commonly accepted ideas I think deserve to be challenged. For this video, I want to take a look at an idea that is surprisingly popular despite the complete lack of any evidence. That idea is, you can't travel between dark worlds without going to the light world. Now, a big question you might have is, why am I talking about this and why do people believe this idea? You see, people aren't using this idea to come to conclusions about the properties of Deltarune's world. This whole idea is used to build theories about one fluffy boy. The reason this whole theory took off is because at the beginning of Chapter 2, everything is going smoothly. We visit Castletown, make our way to the library, then jump into Cyber City. But then something strange happens. Ralsei shows up. This is overlooked by all the characters, but if we think about this, it's a little weird to say the least. Only a few moments ago, Ralsei was all the way back in Castletown. With how far we are, he could only have made it this far by traveling through the light world. This idea is the linchpin of a bunch of Ralsei-related theories. They range from claiming Ralsei is hiding some kind of secret, to completely deranged theories like claiming that Ralsei is Azrael brought back to life. They assert this idea as fact, and push whatever theory they want to push. There's just one problem. It's not a fact. See, I've done some digging. I've hacked into the game's code and found secrets no one else has. And by hacked into the game's code, I mean I played the game. And by secrets no one else has found, I mean something that literally anyone who has played the game has seen. Back in Chapter 1, we actually visit two Dark Worlds. This is something a lot of people forget, but I don't really blame them. We only stay in one of them for a very short time compared to the rest of the chapter. If you remember, Castletown and Card Kingdom are actually two distinct Dark Worlds. They each have their own fountain, so they are each their own Dark World. We see, right on screen, our characters move from Castletown to Card Kingdom. So myth-busting done, right? Well, not quite. Most people who believe in this theory would counter by saying that these two Dark Worlds are an exception. They're side by side and connected by a door in the Light World. This doesn't explain how Ralsei gets to Cyber City. Now, I personally think it's poor writing to introduce an exception to the rule before you introduce the rule. It makes things needlessly confusing for the viewer. I think it's entirely possible that Ralsei could travel to Cyber City. Now, some people might ask where the pathway to Cyber City is in Castletown. We never see it, therefore it can't exist. My response would be, just because we can't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Let's look at a couple examples. In Chapter 1, Lancer is sneaking about in places we can't reach all over the cliffs. Does this mean that Lancer must be lying to us about who or what he is? No, we just assume that he found another way up there. In Chapter 2, Ralsei and Susie leave Chris behind to go off and explore on their own. We can never access the path they took, but does that mean it doesn't exist? No, we just assume the pathway they took has been blocked off. But I will concede that calling this poor writing doesn't actually prove the idea wrong. Toby is human and can make minor mistakes. On top of that, I don't have any proof this path exists. I'm just making assumptions. Seems my attempts to bust this myth have come to a stop. Or have they? I wanted to start with something easy. Counter evidence that offers an alternative explanation without much to actually disprove the theory. Now, however, I think it's time I start bringing out the heavy hitters. As I mentioned before, this all centers around Ralsei. The issue is, Ralsei isn't the only character that gets caught up in the implications of this theory. There are other characters that deal heavy damage to this idea's credibility. Certain characters, who we know for a fact are Darkners, have met characters from other Dark Worlds. Queen, King, Sham, Spamton, and Jevil, we know for a fact that they have, if not traveled to another Dark World, at least met someone who traveled to their world. If the only way to get from Cyber City to the Card Kingdom is through the Light World, how do these characters know each other? This is a devastating death blow for this idea. I have yet to see a single satisfactory answer for how these characters can possibly know each other without being able to travel to each other's worlds. It's not like they just had a video chat. We learned in the Spamton sweepstakes that Spamton and Jevil fought each other. There is no way to reconcile this fact with the idea that travel between these worlds is impossible. Unfortunately for this theory, I'm not done yet. I'll even be extra charitable and assume that there is no physical passage. Let's say it truly is impossible for characters to walk between the Dark Worlds. I'd really be in a bind then, wouldn't I? How could they get from place to place? I mean, it's not like they could teleport or anything. Yeah, characters can teleport. Sure, we only see Rules doing it, but if he can figure it out, I'm certain someone else has been able to do it at some point. He's not exactly the pinnacle of intellect after all. Not only that, but the doors exist. I'm kind of surprised everyone forgets about them when talking about this idea. Teleportation is a thing in Deltarune. Now, I can totally understand why people might not like this explanation. Teleportation is a risky thing to add to any story. If Rouse can do it, it raises a lot of questions. Why can't he just teleport us right to the fountains? Why can't we use this ability in game? I can't answer these with certainty, but I have a few possible explanations. It could be possible that there is a limitation to the teleportation Rouse uses. The doors, for example, can only connect to each other. They are strictly limited as to where they can send you. Perhaps whatever magic Rouse uses works in a very similar way. It could be that it can only send you to people or places you know. This would explain how Rules teleportation works, and how Ralsei's works, although I do admit it wouldn't explain why you can't use his teleportation in-game. Maybe, like the door, Ralsei needs to use an object that's physically constrained to one area. Again, I can't offer definitive answers for these questions, but hopefully I've demonstrated that teleportation is far more likely than characters who are physically incapable of meeting each other having met each other. By now, I think you could see why this idea doesn't hold much water. It is really shocking to see how pervasive this idea is, despite its glaring flaws. Honestly, the main reason I wanted to talk about this is because it's used as evidence for a bunch of theories that I'm not very fond of. If you want your theories to stand, you gotta build them on a solid foundation. I'm all for theorizing, but you need to make sure that your evidence is actually evidence. That will be the main goal if I decide to continue this series. If there's any other claims you think lack evidence in Deltarune theories, let me know. It may just show up in a future video. If you think I missed something in this video, also feel free to comment. I want to hear what other explanations there could be. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.